A 4-gram mushroom trip report sent in by Jake. Truly the scariest part of one's life and experiences happens within their own mind. Our mind is a sandbox, constantly stimulated and so creative. Yet to unlock the inner workings of our beings, sometimes we need a little assistance. This is what fascinates me about psychedelics. I'm fairly experienced with the basics. Before this current experience, I've had a lot of run-ins with drugs, smoking weed for a long while, and I've tripped a handful of times on mushrooms, penis envy, golden teachers, Jedi mindfuck, etc. Yet most of my doses were relatively low, never really more than 2 or 2.5. I've also done acid once, and wasn't too much of a fan of the experience, but that's really enough for context. The story starts with a beach trip with a couple of friends and my girlfriend. We rented an Airbnb, only 3 or 4 blocks from the beach, so it's about a 5-minute walk. We brought a shit ton of alcohol, weed and shrooms. The trip in question was a new strain my brother had given me. To be honest, I should have asked what it was and what its potency was like, but I figured I had enough experience that would be fine no matter what. We arrived at the beach, and for our first night we just smoked a bunch and drank. We went to the beach the following day, shopped around and had a great time. Enter 650, the trip. I took about 4 grams of mushrooms and my girlfriend took 1.5, as she was relatively new to tripping, only having done it once before. We took them with peanut butter and drank a glass of Pedialyte mixed with lemon juice. I never had much luck with lemon teching, but it always seemed to reduce a lot of my nausea during and after the trip. After we took them, our other friends set up Cards Against Humanity, smoked, got drunk, and we played. About 30 to 45 minutes after taking them, I started feeling the effects. Fractal shapes began to appear alongside wobbly lines. I had a shit-eating grin on my face that I couldn't wipe off, and the game we were playing was becoming increasingly more difficult. About an hour into the game, I had to drop it, as sentences were becoming very difficult to comprehend and read aloud without mild confusion. As the rest of my friends played, I stared at the wall and remember seeing crowns plastered all over it. Why crowns? I wasn't sure whatsoever, but these come into play later in the trip. Afterwards, it's about 8 PM or so now. I begin to play some music. Some context before I continue. I'm a huge music junkie. Over 4,000 songs in my playlist, and I stream over 100,000 minutes a year. Needless to say, I have a plethora of songs in my trip playlist. The little game I liked to play was Russian roulette with my trip playlist. I put a song in by a wonderful band called Duster titled Go Back. If any of you know of this song, it's terrifying enough sober. It's a loud, staticky, distorted guitar that strums with somber vocals. I thought it would be fun if one day while I was tripping, that song came on thinking I would have insane visuals. Boy was I wrong. So after listening to maybe 2 very nice songs, Go Back began playing for the first time while I tripped. Immediately, the first strum of the guitar blasted me into a different corporeal dimension. The world around me had a darker tint. The fractal shapes seemed to be moving in tangent and very violently, almost vibrating and trying to rattle the house. And I knew I had to get out of the house. Subconsciously though, I was hearing the lyrics, "I want to go back to the sea. I want to go back to the beach," as the first 2 lines. So the first solution to escaping the house was going to the beach. So I gathered my composure and told my friends and girlfriend we should go watch the sunset. They all agreed, so we grabbed lawn chairs and walked. Stepping outside managed to calm me down a bit. The sky was purple and golden. The cool, fresh air helped me gather myself further, and I felt very connected to the earth around me. I also distinctly remember liking the way the lawn chair felt on my back as I carried it to the beach. And the whole way there, I got sidetracked telling our one sober friend about how amazing it felt to be carrying this chair, and walking and breathing the clean air. Everything around me twirled and danced as the colours shot like rockets towards the sky and splattered into the clouds, raining down towards the concrete. Eventually, we got to the beach just as the sun was setting. I remember the sky being a brilliant magenta, and the ocean slowly crashed into the sand. I stared at the water for a long time, and I felt calm, yet something was wrong. I could just feel something in the universe wasn't aligned correctly. So I looked to the sky, and in the sky, I saw a king in the shape of the clouds. His face was lined with a plaid design, and he had a puffy beard with a large regal crown. I remember staring at him and asking the sky what I was meant for. The king's mouth was moving, but I couldn't understand him, so I started moving closer to the ocean to get closer to him. Eventually I was in the water. The water was frigid, but it felt inviting. I looked down as I felt the water on my feet, away from the king, and was shocked I had walked that far. The water felt magnificent on my skin. It felt as if angels were caressing my body and enclosing me in a warm embrace. I remember looking back up to the king in the sky, only to find he was gone. In fact, many of the clouds had become invisible, as the sun set over the horizon and it began to get dark. Disappointed, I looked back to the ocean and remembered what I was here for. The waves seemed to get bigger at this realization, as the vast ocean revealed itself to me. "Go back," I heard. I turned around to see my friends and girlfriend multiple feet behind taking pictures on their Polaroid cameras. I turned back to the water and knew what had to be done. I grabbed my phone from my pocket and played the song. Instantly, my tether to reality was broken. The black ocean swelled, and I was but a mere chalk outline in a land of shapes with such complexity one could never even fathom. The ocean crashed against my feet, as it felt they were locked in place by cinder blocks. I kept hearing voices telling me to go back to the ocean, go back to the sea. I heard voices to dive in, voices telling me to drown myself. I had immense suicidal urges in this moment. The urge to drown myself was almost uncontrollable. I began walking further. As the song played, each strum of the guitar shifted the plane I walked on. The world turned as I came to the realization I was trapped within a simple sphere in the middle of a vast universe far greater than one's own ability to comprehend. The water was now up to my chest. Nobody came to stop me. I was stuck in shock and delusion. I was dissociated from my mortal body, and my soul had ascended elsewhere as the ocean continued to embrace me. The voices were getting louder. The song had a secret message this whole time, I thought. I didn't just place it in my playlist for shits and giggles. It was trying to tell me something, trying to tell me to go back. And then, it ended. The static stopped, the noise stopped, the strumming stopped, and the ocean calmed down. In this moment, I had my very first ego death. The ocean's violent black waves that had swelled up to my neck, or so I had thought, began to die down below my abdomen, which was how far I was actually standing in the sea. When this happened, the only thought I could imagine was that the ocean was scared of me. I had become so powerful and so all-knowing of the universe and its secrets that the ocean itself, Earth's largest monster, was scared and was backing off of me. My viewpoint on my entire existence had changed. I began to feel a euphoric yet ominous feeling. I knew the secrets of the universe. I was the centre of everything. I was everything, and I was also nothing. The universe's size made me, an all-omniscient being, feeble and microscopic. After settling in the ocean for what felt like years, I returned to the shore. None of my friends had even noticed I was gone, as they were too busy on their phones or even sleeping. When I came back, my entire lower half was soaking wet. I asked one question. "Can we go back?" And they obliged and walked me back home. When I first asked that question, and they said yes, I kept saying back that they didn't understand. They didn't understand the meaning behind "go back," and they all were extremely confused and starting to worry, as I was trying to preach and explain it like I was sent from the Lord to teach them. On our walk back home, the concrete ground was glimmering, and it had morphed into outer space. I was walking on stars and planets as outer space created a walkway for me back to our Airbnb. After following this path of meteors and shooting stars, we made it back to our Airbnb. At this point I was beyond past the concept of recognition, and this strange house or whatever it was they were leading me into sort of freaked me out. I had no idea where I was. but I slowly made my way inside. The entire house seemed oddly familiar, but far too distant to be anything I could have ever recognised. There were objects I never remembered being there. The stairway next to the door continued in a spiral, yet my friends helped me and my girlfriend up to bed while they went downstairs to drink some more. In the room, I remember my blanket had become a giant writhing worm, and I refused to sit down in it. I then made the mistake of asking my girlfriend the time, for her to respond, 9:55. We'd only been gone just over an hour and a half. That was impossible to me. The concept of time had just been erased from my brain. It only added to my new viewpoint of life, that time was useless and meaningless. As I philosophised and pondered, I made my way back downstairs somehow and collapsed on the ground. This is where things begin to get foggy, as really all I remembered was that I stared at a clock as it melted off the wall, and I moulded into the tiles I laid on. I laid here and stared at this wall for an hour or so. That's all I can remember. When my girlfriend and I went upstairs to bed around 11 to 11:30, we laid in bed and watched TikTok for a while, and by this point I was starting to come down and was able to recognise where I was, yet my visuals were still very intense and I felt disoriented. I decided to play it safe and just relax for the night, so I got in bed, talked with my girlfriend and finally fell asleep around 2 in the morning. This was my full experience on these mushrooms. The following days I was stuck in a very deep depression that was difficult for me to get out of. This experience enlightened me and opened up so many doors and realms of possibilities. I've since taken a break from all substances and plan to clear my head before I get back to my journey. I have questions that need to be answered, and I'll continue doing what I need to in order to get them answered, whilst being safe of course.